it's a biblical belief that that a man should be with a woman. So he's an unashamed Christian and has made that point very clear. I've never watched this series.
And let me follow on with that very issue. I believe free speech is under attack in this country, and I'm very concerned about that. To the extent that he's free to say what he wishes, as long as it's not hate or doesn't harm other people. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You're not entitled to that. But I do think we've become quite aggressive with our attacks on free speech, and that concerns me.
All right, that's Dr. Drew, ladies and gentlemen, who we had on the show yesterday. Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show, addressing the Duck Dynasty issue, the Phil Robertson suspension by A&E for expressing his views on homosexuality, and Dr. Drew saying that, yes, free speech is under attack. He by no means agreed with anything that Phil Robertson said. Joining us now is our friend, the director of the Catholic League, Bill Donahue, is back in studio once again. How are you? I love the Christmassy tie.
I'm ready to go. Ready to party.
Yeah, it's coming quick. All right, so your reaction to what Phil Robertson said and to what A&E did.
Well, I didn't know that A&E had actually advertised on its website that they are proud defenders of LGBT. They didn't say they were proud defenders of Catholics or Jews or blacks or anybody. They chose the gay community. Now, they have a right to do that, but I think they've compromised themselves from the beginning. What does A&E have in common with NPR and MSNBC? In all three cases, they fired people for something they didn't say on their show, but for something they wrote or said someplace else. Pat Buchanan wrote a book. They didn't like it at MSNBC. They fired him. Juan Williams made some comments on Fox that NPR didn't like, didn't say anything on NPR. They fired him. Phil Robertson believes that the biblical passages about homosexuality and adultery, they fire him. The comments are printed in GQ. See, I don't think of a single example where anybody on the right has tried to silence people like that for views that they hold and didn't even express on the air. So you're not even allowed to hold privately held beliefs, particularly religious beliefs, and that's really what's driving this.
Yeah, and Alec Baldwin comes to mind, but Alec Baldwin's comments were, in my opinion, were vicious and hate-filled and aimed at an individual in a derogatory way, which and had a history of those kinds of comments, much different than what Phil Robertson has done.
Well, I mean, the thing is, people can agree or disagree with the biblical injunctions dealing with sexuality. And by the way, I read his comments because I heard so much nonsense about it. And if he's anti-gay, then he's anti-straight. And I guess the Bible is anti-gay and anti-straight because what he's saying, he linked, in fact, people sleep around, adultery and the like, with homosexuality. Now, people can disagree with that, but that's not hate speech. There's a difference between intentionally trying to use vile and obscene language to insult people and to express a particular point of view. But this is where we've come to in our society today.
Well, Dan Gaynor, who we just had on before from the Media Research Center, talks about the, I think he called it the radical gay lobby of LGBT and others, once again winning out here. How concerned are you with the apparent power that they have?
Well, there's definitely an element in the radical gay community. I refer to these people as cultural fascists, not just gays, but those who are straight and who are trying to stop nativity scenes from being put up on public property and the like. They really want to turn the clock back to a point where the state will be in charge of everything. They don't believe in freedom of speech. I'll give you another example, Steve. I mean, it's pretty well known. Can anyone think of a single example where conservatives have shouted down a left-wing speaker on a college campus? The people who get shouted down are always conservatives, always by the left wing.
Just ask Ann Coulter.
There's no end to them.
Right,
I mean, it was the students who burned the Bible at Syracuse University a number of years ago when Pat Buchanan went to speak. So, no, where you see intolerance, it's usually associated with the left, especially these days. And look what the left has done now, ganging up on Israel with their immoral boycott. It's the left that wants to silence speech. It's not the conservatives.
And talk a little bit about that before we get to something we talked about earlier in the week about the satanic display, which has been denied in Florida. So that's a victory. But talk about the boycott going on the campuses.
We have the American Studies Association. We have an Asian American group, a Native American group of professors who are out there calling for a boycott and divestment of Israel. Probably next month you'll get the Modern Language Association and others are meeting. Look, I spent many years as a professor, 20 years in education, 16 as a professor. I never in my life have seen more intolerant people in my life than exist in the social sciences and humanities in particular. They will silence people. And what's going on here, Israel is the only democracy in the whole Middle East. And I hope Christians get the message, not just Jews. Who's killing the Christians the most these days? Muslims and the North Koreans. Do you think any of these professorial groups are going to target or boycott North Korea or any of the Muslim-run nations? No.
Not.
They're going after the Jews, and they would like to see the Christians get it just as well. This is an absolute outrage. It's driven by the left, as usual.
All right, Bill, before we let you go, we talked about several issues on the day we had you here when the Pope was named Time Magazine Person of the Year. And one of the issues you were on, I guess, Fox the other day, and you talked about this satanic group wanted to put a display at the Florida Capitol building right next to a nativity scene, and that's been denied. So some good news to talk about, I guess.
Well, I tell you, we've been doing this stuff at the Catholic League since 1993. We had our first big victory in '94 when we got Barneys to pull out an obscene nativity scene by pressure, not censoring them, out of their storefront window. I would say that things peaked around 2005, 6, and 7. I looked back in our notes on this thing. I think there's a tapering. I'm not saying it's over, but it's the national groups like the ACLU, the Secular Humanist Association, Freedom from Religion Foundation, Military Religious Freedom Foundation, and, of course, American Atheists. They're the ones leading it at the elite level. Most people at the local level, they don't want this, and indeed there's a pushback. I'm slightly optimistic that this thing, the worst years are behind us.
Bill, and you're so right when you say the radical groups and whatnot. I don't believe that these radical gay groups represent the average gay person.
No, the average
I don't
gay
believe
person,
that the
no,
radical
no.
atheist groups, which have so few members, represent atheists. I think
Right.
most of them say, I don't care.
Right.
But they take on, and the media covers them as representing and being fully representative of that community. And I think they hurt their communities.
Let me just give you the example of the atheists. One of the great atheist friends of mine is Nat Hentoff.
I love Nat Hentoff.
The guy who probably had the greatest effect on me as a student was Sidney Hook, a brilliant Jewish guy who was an atheist. There wasn't an anti-Catholic bone in his body.
Yep.
Listen, I know who's driving this. A lot of them are ex-Christians, all right? Ex-Catholics and ex-Protestants, some secular Jews. They're the ones who are driving this thing, and they don't represent Catholics or Jews.
Have the best Christmas ever.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on your great billboard in Times Square.
Thank you.
And for all you do, love Bill Donahue of the Catholic League, and we'll see you next year, sir.
Enjoy all the holidays, people.
Thank you. All right, we're coming back. Dr. David Samadi joins us. A change in blood pressure recommendations. They say don't take vitamins now. I mean, the whole chicken has bacteria that you can't kill with antibiotics. Coming straight ahead.